We'll talk more Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, the remainder of the season outlook for KC, starting on Saturday, hosting the Texans in just a moment in one of our favorite games, NFL buy or sell. But the other NFL headlines that you need entering Week 16, TJ Watt and his Steelers also play on a short week on Saturday afternoon in the Charm City, taking on the Ravens in a game that might dictate the outcome in the AFC North. Watt back at practice in a limited capacity after not practicing on Tuesday. George Pickens has not practiced this week either, DRS. He has missed the last two games for the Steelers, but he was working out on the side of the practice turf yesterday.
Yeah, a couple of those. We'll start with George Pickens. They really need him desperately back. You saw him against the Eagles. Now, the Eagles are the number one defense in the NFL. And you come in without your number one wideout, you saw how hard it was to move the football. A little bit different with Baltimore. You can pass against Baltimore, but again, if you don't have George Pickens, how effective can you be in that passing game? Number two, do you see, like we just talked about Patrick Mahomes, high ankle sprain as reported after the game. We don't even know if the guy's going to play the next 2 to 3 weeks. Odds start to drop. Patrick Mahomes is practicing full all week. TJ Watt sprains his ankle. So what do the Steelers do? Okay, sit out a day of practice, come back and test it a little bit to see how it is. Like, that just seems like a more diagnosed injury than Patrick Mahomes. We'll see how it turns out. But again, George Pickens and TJ Watt, let's just say if they both miss this game or hindered, boy, that is going to be a tough hill to climb. And that's why you're seeing those 6.5s across the board at that point here. So there you go. Injury, action, and away you go. Diagnosis from your boy DRS. Come on now. Let me handle these franchises. They'll be in better shape.
We might need some more Dr. Donnie in our next headline. David Montgomery, who is going to be out for the year after undergoing surgery on his torn MCL. That was the update from his head coach, Dan Campbell, on Monday afternoon. But then Montgomery himself said he might return at some point this season, now seeking a third opinion. My guess is a third opinion could only mean one thing. That's walking into the waiting room of one Dr. Donnie.
Yeah, exactly. And how about this? Like, I have a lot of, let's just say history with this stuff, right? 2004 Philadelphia Eagles, mid-December. Terrell Owens snapped his ankle, and he told us, don't worry, I'll be back for the Super Bowl. And we all laughed. And then he was the best player in the Super Bowl. So I want to say Detroit, hang it up, because the jokes are easy. Aiden Hutchinson, we make the Super Bowl, I'm in. And I retweet out there, like, what, does he play for the Eagles now because Detroit's not making the Super Bowl? But I don't mind these guys saying, I want every opinion possible to give me some hope, because it is devastating. When you are the best team in the NFL, which Detroit was for a long stretch, and you get injured as one of the key players, boy, that's a tough pill to swallow, knowing I can't help my team anymore. So I don't mind if these guys are out looking for 5th, 6th, 7th opinions to get them back in time. So I don't really have too much to say on that hatred-wise. Otherwise, you could say, you're a dummy, you're going to be out for the year. I just told you that. So I could do that.
But Dr. Donnie, not even out of hatred, but just professional opinion, to let David Montgomery know if there's a chance if the Lions were to make their first ever Super Bowl in franchise history. Why are we still talking about Aaron Rodgers? Here was Aaron Rodgers yesterday, presented a hypothetical about if the Jets were to draft a rookie quarterback. If they asked me back and they drafted a guy, I'd mentor the hell out of him. That's a scary thing, but I'd try to play as well as I could to keep him on the bench. I really hope this is our last Aaron Rodgers head. The guy doesn't even want to be talked about unless it's by himself, so I hope this is our last Aaron Rodgers headline for a while.
Yeah, you know what? But see, look, again, prior past experience here. You do know, Ben, the reason why I was brought to the SportsGrid Network. It was to mentor one Kevin Walsh. He was on his way out of the business, and I completely changed it around, and now he's a superstar at the network. So it can happen. People like myself are very selfish, but when it comes to mentoring, we'll help some young kids out that need direction in life, and I do that.
Very selfish. I would agree with that. Kevin Walsh was thinking about Reuters heading back. Donnie said, no, stay here, kid.
Wrestling
Follow
career?
Me in play sports tonight.
Yeah,
you had him right. You got him back on the straight and narrow, DRS, and for that, we appreciate you immensely. Quickly, before we get into the rest of the National Football League, as we shared earlier with Juju Lewis on his way to Boulder, more of a veteran presence from the transfer portal, the Tennessee and Liberty transfer, Caden Salter, who spent the past 2 years as the starting quarterback for Jamie Chadwick and the Flames, now will make his way to Boulder to play under Deion Sanders, who is a name often put in coaching cycles if he might go anywhere else. He's staying in Boulder, and he's got some quarterbacks to choose for after his son Shador is probably the number 1 overall pick in 2025.
Look, you're going to be able to do some damage on the recruiting trail and the portal, Ben, because if you can just say, you want to play quarterback for me? What have you done with your quarterbacks? I don't know. Just made him the number 1 overall pick. Oh, that's nice here. And you want to be on the national stage and win big awards? Yeah, we just had the Heisman Trophy winner on our team. So things are looking up here for Colorado at this point now. I think it's a good move. That's not a leap right here. This kid played really good football at Liberty, and you're going to put him in an offense that could be explosive and fun. He seems like a great fit there, and it's a good choice by him.
The only thing I would say, Chadwick runs the new age triple option that he did at Coastal Carolina and took over to Liberty. Caden Salter last year, along with Jaden Daniels, the only quarterbacks in the country to throw for more than 3,000 yards and have 1,000 on the ground as well. This is in 2023, not this previous season in 2024. That's not necessarily the design of Colorado's offense, that is just air it out at all costs under Pat Shurmur. We shall see. I still think Juju Lewis could be their starter entering next season, even as a true freshman. Donnie, we talked about Patrick Mahomes, who with a high ankle sprain has not missed practice this week, which even if he was going to play on Saturday, the fact he is practicing in full is incredibly noteworthy. Because of that, we have seen changes in the odds for Saturday's Week 16 game as KC hosts Houston. They were a 2.5-point home underdog when it opened up. Uncertainty around the status of Mahomes. Now that it seems as though he is on track to start, they are a 3.5-point home favorite. But not just for the individual game itself, Donnie, but its ramifications for that AFC playoff picture. The Chiefs are 13-1. They're 2 games in front of Buffalo with only 3 left to hold on to that number 1 overall seed in the AFC. It was minus 195 on Monday. It's now minus 260. Of course, Buffalo has that head-to-head tiebreaker should both teams end with the same record. So, DRS, a buy or sell question to you. The Chiefs need to be the 1 seed more than the Bills do. What do you say?
It's a slight buy on this one. Like, it's not an all the way, because the reason I say that, you can just go back to last year. Oh, the Chiefs, they always have home field advantage. That's the only way they actually get the Super Bowls. Did you watch last year where after beating the Dolphins at home in Arrowhead, they go on the road and like, they can't beat the Buffalo Bills there. Oh, they beat them. Oh, now the Ravens. Boy, it's payback now. They beat the Ravens on the road. They went to the Super Bowl. Oh, there's no way on a it's not even, it's a neutral site game per se, but not a home game. They can't win this Super Bowl. Oh, they beat the 49ers. So it is a buy for me, technically, that, Kansas City needs home field advantage, because I don't think they're as talented, if that makes sense, as last year. But there's no way I can sell this and be like, oh, we've never seen Kansas City go on the road and beat good teams in a way to a Super Bowl. They just did that last year.
Want/should, absolute buy. Need because of what Donnie just laid out, I'm selling that. In fact, I think if you were to flip this question, the Bills need home field advantage as the 1 seed more than the Chiefs do. I'm fully buying into that idea. But outside of buying into the idea, Donnie, it's a matter of should or will at the end of this regular season. Here's what we have at stake for the 3 teams still in the running. The Steelers do have a case, but really it feels to be a 2-team race. And again, the Bills have the direct head-to-head tiebreaker advantage over KC. Buffalo would need Kansas City to drop 2 of its final 3, and the Bills would have to win out. Buffalo will be a hefty favorite in all of their final 3 games, twice against the Patriots. Buffalo hosts New England on Sunday as a 2-touchdown favorite at the moment. So, DRS, we buy the idea that maybe Kansas City should. Are you buying the idea that Kansas City will be that 1 seed in the AFC?
Yes, they will. And also keep in mind, I do think they beat the Texans now. Patrick Mahomes is competent in the pocket. There's a good chance they lose to the Steelers on the road. That's just a tough game. But game number 3, the Broncos, the Broncos can sting them. Keep in mind, there are scenarios where the Broncos might not even need that football game. And if Kansas City needs it, that might be a walkover victory. So, I'm buying. They're going to get the number 1 seed.
One more thought on that, and then Kirk Cousins' future next. So I'm in a little bit of a conundrum. Not really. I just think I have made a bad bet. We were discussing this on Monday with the injury uncertainty around Patrick Mahomes, that if the Chiefs were to drop 2 of their final 3 and Mahomes was suffering with a high ankle sprain and maybe not available for the next week or 2, with a short week on this Saturday hosting the Texans and a short turnaround to play on Christmas Day in Pittsburgh, Buffalo was in prime position to earn that number 1 overall seed in the AFC. Donnie, what I did not reveal on the airwaves of the early line, at least on Monday, is that I had a KC to be the 1 seed in the AFC ticket that I bet like a month and a half ago at a minus 150 number when it seemed to me the path was pretty clear for KC after their undefeated start, even if they lost a few games to hold on to the 1 seed. So I cashed out of that bet for full value on what I had originally placed the wager and then placed my money on Buffalo to be the 1 seed with a plus 160 price because I was feeling good. Now, with Mahomes more than likely playing on Saturday, and now that KC is a 3.5-point home favorite against the Texans, Donnie, there's a good chance the Chiefs don't drop 2 of their final 3, but win at least 2 of their final 3. And if that's the case, even though Buffalo has the head-to-head tiebreak, it won't matter.
No, but by the way, it's the right move you made, though, because, handicappers are supposed to be proactive with the information that they get in the moment. And anybody wouldn't have thought you were crazy at all. Say, the minute Patrick Mahomes gets diagnosed with a high ankle sprain, and they have a sprint playing 3 games in 10 or 11 days, and 2 of those games are coming up here against tough opponents where he might not play at all in those games, that's the right move to make. The only crazy part is the misdiagnosis, obviously, of how terrible this high ankle sprain is. So I can't fault you oh, no, you had a winning ticket that you cashed into a losing ticket. No, you made the right structure with the information out at the moment, which should have turned into profitability, even if Patrick Mahomes would have missed one of those games, because as you saw, the Houston Texans were a favorite on the road at Kansas City. So therefore, you were playing it as even the odds makers think Kansas City is going to lose this game, then a really tough game at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then you'll see what they have the final weeks against the Denver Broncos. So you didn't make the wrong decision. You just didn't get the right information out of the Kansas City Chiefs. That's all. Yeah, come on.
Thanks. You're a good mentor, man. You're a great doctor.
See?
You're a good mentor. I appreciate that. I'm on conspiracy theorist Rightside's side here, that I don't even think it was a severe high ankle sprain or maybe an injury at all. Does Mahomes even have a right ankle? Are birds real? Those are the questions that Donnie is asking, and thus I agree. For birds, by the way, that was just happened to work like that. The Atlanta Falcons and Kirk Cousins, of course, they are starting Michael Penix Jr., the 8th overall pick this past April in the 2024 NFL Draft, Week 16, as the Falcons still in the hunt for the NFC South crown. It does not seem that Kirk Cousins has much of a future left with the Falcons franchise, however. But, Donnie, because of the financial investment, as you see the stats for Captain Kirk in his only year in Atlanta, year number 13 of his NFL career, they paid him $180 million this offseason over a 4-year deal. Not easy to get out of. $100 million of that guaranteed. Again, not easy to get out of without taking on some of that financial burden. We have shared a couple of the numbers that will factor into the decision that Atlanta has to make moving forward. If he is cut post-June 1st, it's a $40 million dead cap hit, even if they trade him at some point this summer for anybody that is willing to take him on. Atlanta still needs to take the burden of $12.5 million on their payroll. So all of that, Donnie, does factor into the buy or sell question to you. Kirk Cousins is still a starting caliber NFL quarterback.
No, he's not. And where we're at, we're selling that all the way down. And also understand this. This wasn't the Atlanta Falcons after that performance and Raheem Morris getting together with his coaching staff and the general manager going, okay, we got to jumpstart this franchise somehow. Let's just see what Michael Penix has to offer for the New York Giants game, and then we'll go from there. The word coming out of Atlanta is, no, this is permanent. We just moved on from Kirk Cousins at this point, which means we don't think he can play as well as a rookie that we've never seen in game action in the midst of a playoff race. If there was an inkling from that ownership group / general manager and coaching staff that Kirk Cousins was still the right guy, they're right in the thick of the playoff race. They have a layup this weekend, and they're telling you, we can't even put Kirk Cousins out there against the Giants because we need better play at the quarterback position if we want to sweep the final 3 games, and hopefully you see a loss from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, let's just say, against the Dallas Cowboys this weekend. So if you're thinking that he can't beat out a rookie at that price level, and they're going to release him in the offseason, where's he going to go when the next thing goes you know what? This is the perfect guy we needed because we think we're really close to winning a division. Because let's make no bones about this. I love the move for them to get Kirk Cousins in the offseason because I saw the minute they got Cousins figuring he would be healthy and be competent, they were the best team in that division. And if you're an ownership group and a team, you owe it to your fan base to say, you know what, we have a chance to win this division. Let's get this quarterback. And it didn't work out at all. There's no way another franchise is going to pick up Kirk Cousins and say, you know what, we're close to the playoffs or we think we can win the division. This is our guy. So I'm selling it there. There's no way Kirk Cousins is going to be a legitimate NFL starter on a franchise that's actually looking to do anything in the future.
It is crazy how quickly the fall off can happen, and we'll never truly know, but I guess we are seeing some of those ill effects after trying to recover from a torn Achilles as a 36-year-old quarterback, a guy that was paid nearly $200 million just under a year ago, that by the time we reach this next NFL offseason might be a backup for however long he has left in the National Football League. So starting caliber, I would sell. Start another game in the NFL, I will absolutely buy. Now, I wonder what the trade market is based on value, right? Because what do you have to give Atlanta, if anything, in return for Kirk Cousins?
Zero.
But it's not even what draft assets or capital do you have to pay, DRS. It's what you have to pay legitimately Kirk Cousins based on what his contract is. Are you willing to take on that burden? That is the interesting thing. Donnie, do you think somebody this NFL offseason makes a move for Kirk?
No, I don't, because I don't think he can play. You go back a couple years, the Eagles drafted Carson Wentz. Sam Bradford was still supposed to be that starting quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater gets injured. They traded Sam Bradford. Why? Because they didn't have to. Every other team's going to be like, wait, Penix is your starting quarterback. You're going to cut this guy. Why would I pay you anything for this guy? He'll clear waivers. I'll get him for $1.
I think that's probably very fair in that assessment. More buy or sell around the NFL next. We round out this opening hour with a little bit more NFL buy or sell entering week number 16. Maybe it's not just a playoff race, a divisional push. You're trying to figure out your postseason seeding, or if your team stinks this year, your draft position for this upcoming April in 2025. But looking at the guys that were drafted early on in 2024 in the individual hardware races, DRS coming down the stretch. MVP, Josh Allen. Hefty favorite. NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, also a quarterback booked as a hefty favorite. Could he go Heisman Trophy into Offensive Rookie of the Year? That's what the odds are saying for Washington's Jaden Daniels. Minus 4,000. Buy or sell, DRS. The Offensive Rookie of the Year race is over. Finished. Done. Finito.
Sell that. How could it? First off, we're mispricing here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm sorry, minus 4,000. Look, I think right now if the season ended, he would be the Rookie of the Year. But the problem is we got 3 games to go in high leverage games on both sides. You're telling me right now Bo Nix goes 3-0 with the teams he's playing and finishes out that season with a playoff run that nobody anticipated. He's not going to get closer. And also, look at Jaden Daniels on the way out. The Philadelphia Eagles game this weekend, they're underdogs. Let's just say they lose that. I know the Falcons come to town. And if Penix plays well against the Giants, that's no layup there. And the craziest thing about this is the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones are so maniacal right now that they want to play out the string and win football games when all they should be doing is losing to try to get the best player possible. So let's just play again, devil's advocate. Washington loses 3 straight. Denver wins 3 straight. Jaden Daniels doesn't win the award. No chance. So I think he wins it, yes. But I'm selling that he already has it wrapped up. That price point is way too high because what happens if we see tonight? You go on the road in a divisional game and you beat the Chargers. Then Sunday, the Philadelphia Eagles beat Washington. What's that price point then, Ben? Minus 1,500 here? No way is this race over yet. I'm not saying Jaden Daniels isn't going to win it, but minus 4,000 and he has it wrapped up, no shot.
So I do think it's over. I don't know if I would price it as strongly as DRS. I do hear the arguments. I think Jaden Daniels is going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. One, because of the narrative and how great he was right away. And even with some struggles midway through the season, he is playing elite football once again. Washington snapped its 3-game skid and out of the bye last week against the Saints. He was pretty darn good again. 25 for 31 for 226, 2 touchdowns, and 66 yards on the ground. The last 2 games, DRS, after that 3-game slide for the Commanders, the efficiency back to historic levels for Daniels. 83% in the big win against Tennessee. Completion percentage, nearly 81 last week in the Big Easy against the Saints. I do think Jaden Daniels is going to comfortably win this award. But the argument that you are making is incredibly sound, because we have shared this so many times, and we did entering the year with Caleb Williams, booked as the favorite, that quarterbacks, unlike many other awards around football, collegiately or professionally, if a quarterback can win an award, they often do. Not the case in Offensive Rookie of the Year. Only 4 of the previous 10 winners have played the quarterback position in the last decade, because you put the success of a team, a win-loss record, on the quarterback first and foremost. So you need to be a good team. You need to be flirting with the postseason. Both Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix are doing that for the Commanders and Broncos, respectively. So if Bo Nix does go on a run and has a couple of primetime and marquee games, maybe even including DRS, week number 18 against the Chiefs in a game that could decide Denver's playoff outlook in the number 1 seed in the AFC, then maybe Bo's got a little bit of life.
No, he does have some life, but also, let's play devil's advocate on my argument. You see on Sunday, Jaden Daniels outperformed Jalen Hurts, and they beat the Philadelphia Eagles. And you watch tonight, Herbert takes care of the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix. This race will be over at that point. But I just look at it the way I think it's going to play out, where it's going to get much closer than what it is, because there are tough games and high-leverage situations. Also, keep in mind, you look at Washington, who is having a good season. Their best win may be Arizona earlier on, which is basically a 500 football team. So it's not as if they're slaying teams like the Ravens and, the Chiefs on a back-to-back basis. Like, hey, we already had these quote-unquote Heisman moments. He's a favorite for a reason. He is the best rookie right now, but the season isn't over. And let's see how it plays out.
But we don't really talk strength of schedule as a metric as we evaluate resumes within the National Football League. But shout out to my guy, Bo Nix, one of the best bets I have ever made. Over his rookie yards prop for his rookie campaign, $28.50 and a hook. He's got 2,972. Cash that ticket, Bo. More about Bo, the Broncos, and the Bolts when Hour 2 starts next. We welcome you to Hour number 2, live right here on this Thursday on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. Still together for the next 2 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern. In this second hour, DRS, plenty more football. We will break down Thursday night as Week 16 kicks tonight in Los Angeles between the Broncos and the Chargers in L.A., a game that will not have implications on the AFC West race between these two divisional foes, because the Chiefs have already won the divisional crown for a 9th consecutive year, but plenty of playoff implications around the AFC wildcard picture, positions, and just earning those spots. It is not Donnie's favorite game, but that is okay. But DRS, later on in this second hour, we'll get you hyped up once again. Mark Zinno will be here as we will take an early look at the college football playoff. We are 1 day away from the first ever game day in the 12-team college football playoff era. Tomorrow, in what might be snowy South Bend, Indiana, it's the first ever 12-team college football playoff game, the first ever on-campus playoff game between Notre Dame and Indiana. We'll look at the triple header of games we have on a wonderful football Saturday as well.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that, too? I asked Joe Lisa when we had him on, like, is it better, Ben? Would you have liked it if it was just a super star-studded Saturday where all 4 games in tandem, like 12, 2, 4, 6, and 8, something like that? Or do you get the appetizer on Friday night? And the reason why I ask that is because sometimes we see, like, the conference championship games. We'll give, like, the Pac-12 game on a Friday night. I think it does lose a little bit of luster, but we're going to be watching. It should be a very good game. I love the fact that 3 of the 4 games in this playoff, Ben, are going to be played at sub-freezing temperatures. It's something we're really not used to in college football, and it'll be wonderful to watch it play out in those home atmospheres where the crowd's going to be electric. But I want to ask, like, do you have obviously you don't have a problem with it because you're going to watch a good football game, but would you have rather, like, a true Saturday where you guys are on set, all 4 games, you're ready to let it rip.
I think if that was the case, thank you for that. I think if that was the case, DRS, that you would have games competing against one another, even if you tried to stagger it out as much as possible. So I don't mind giving all 4 games its own viewing window. And then you throw in the wrinkle that the NFL is playing a doubleheader on Saturday
Good
as
games,
well.
too. Yeah.
That already kind of stinks in my estimation as a pure college football fan for the college football playoff. I'm okay with the Friday night game. It's also Friday, like entering Christmas weekend, Christmas week. It's not Friday in July where you're worried about people being out and about. You're home, you're cozy, it's family, it's football. It's under the watchful eye of Touchdown Jesus in South Bend, Indiana for the in-state showdown. So I am happy with it. I am excited. I could hear both points. I will say this, Donnie. Well, now with the NFL, you wonder. But I do wonder what the viewership rating is for the Friday standalone game as compared to all 3 games on Saturday for the college football playoff.
You know, it might be bigger, to be honest. And also, Notre Dame is one of the biggest names in sport. Like, even though, because Indiana had a good season, they're not really that blue blood program. Like, if you would have said Notre Dame was going to host, I don't know, Alabama, let's just say, I would have really loved to see what those ratings would have been even up against the NFL game as a standalone on Friday night. But you will still get big-time ratings at that point because it is Notre Dame and it is standalone. I do think the ratings would be great on Saturday, but you're right. And also, the NFL isn't giving you clunkers like the Cleveland Browns and the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
They're giving you really good football games as it worked out on Saturday. So from an NFL fan and a college football fan, I think it's like maybe the perfect day. So much fun, so much meaning. Should be good games across the board and a lot of intrigue. And also the newness of the college football playoff. Like, you're not watching a bowl game. Like, you're watching a playoff game where a team has home field advantage and how exciting that crowd is going to be and how it plays out. So it's going to be an awesome Saturday nonetheless. But that Friday night appetizer will be interesting to watch leading into Saturday's games.
I mean, listen, if you are a fan of football at whatever level and you have multiple screens, you are in for one of the greatest football days of your life on Saturday. That starts at noon Eastern in Happy Valley, Penn State and SMU. The 1 p.m. Eastern time kick in Kansas City, the Chiefs and the Texans. 4 p.m. Eastern time in Austin, it's Texas and Clemson. Half an hour later on schedule to Baltimore, AFC North battle between the Ravens and the Steelers. And then a nightcap as good as you will find in Columbus between Ohio State and Tennessee, kicking around 8 p.m. Eastern time. I mean, just from a football perspective, as a sports fan, a sports bettor, it doesn't get much better than that. And hey, Thursday night football, DRS, an important game, although I do understand maybe from the betting angle of props, might not be the most appealing. A divisional duel where neither team can win the divisional crown because Kansas City already has for a 9th straight season. But both teams right now firmly in the AFC playoff picture. The Broncos as the 6th, the Chargers as the 7th and final in the AFC. They square off tonight on a short week Thursday to begin week 16 inside SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. 2.5-point spread in favor of the home team. That would be the Bolts. Total stands at 41 and a hook. DRS expected to be a close game, but perhaps not a high-scoring game tonight in LA.
Yeah, you're hoping for more points because it's usually more fun to watch it play out. But let's understand the situation that we're entering in with the Broncos and the Chargers. You're looking at 2 teams vying for winning maybe the final playoff spot in the AFC. So it's a de facto playoff game. Also, these 2 teams are divisional opponents. They know each other well. And then you throw in it's a short work week on top of it, and we know how that turns out. And also, the NFL, the later you get into the season, the harder it is, Ben, for these teams to get prepared and ready for a Thursday night football game. Not because they don't understand the concept of, we only have 3 days instead of 7 days to prepare, but these players now have played 14 games. They're banged up, they're bruised coming in, and they don't need to get the full 7 games to actually make it. And also, an interesting twist in this one, which we brought up yesterday too, was the fact of the matter is this was supposed to be a Sunday game that got moved up to Thursday. But it wasn't the NFL saying, well, we do it whatever we want. They actually had to call the Denver Broncos before they switched it to make sure they were okay with this. And I like Sean Payton's response. Hey, we'll play you anywhere at any time. But to be honest, I'm really surprised that they agreed to have this, because one of the worst disadvantages you can have is a road game where you have to get on a plane and play a division rival that week. So I'm surprised they didn't decline it. But you know how one hand washes the other. It's good for the NFL. The NFL will probably look out for them in the next 2 or 3 years in a spot that might not be so advantageous for them. They'll be able to switch up that schedule. So I get that part of it. But you are at a disadvantage if you're the Broncos tonight. But there are high stakes to go through, which, again, 42.5 yesterday on FanDuel, 41.5 today is the total. And I agree with that, because from a prop perspective, which we'll get into, not a lot to love at tight end. Each team has one wide receiver. Good luck figuring out who's the top running back on either one of these teams tonight. And then you have two quarterbacks who aren't really necessarily throwing. Like Justin Herbert's thrown one game this year, over 300 yards. That's what I'm sort of angling to say, which is the way I'm playing this, other than looking at the under.
The Broncos are the healthier side. The Chargers continue to deal with injuries, even with Justin Herbert, who has multiple on a short week. And Donnie, when you look at that total, 41.5, making its way down throughout this week, it checks out, both because it is a short week, very late in the season, and because right now there are three defenses that are all tied at the top in terms of scoring output to the opposition. It's the Broncos, the Chargers, and the Eagles, all allowing 17.6 points per game on average as your best scoring defensive units around the National Football League. So we'll make sense of the numbers and how we expect Thursday night to play out up next, live right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid. Right back here on this Thursday on the Early Line on SportsGrid. Thursday night football tonight in L.A. starts week number 16 of this season. Huge games with playoff implications the remainder of the way. That is the case for this Thursday night between the Chargers and the Broncos. DRS, back to the numbers quickly, and then the outlook for both teams before we dive into the props. 2.5-point spread on a short week in favor of L.A. Home field advantage, being at home on a short week where rest is paramount, that checks out, but basically both teams seen as pretty even. Denver is 9-5. L.A. is 8-6. Total 41 and a hook. And let's go there, DRS, because we have two of the three best scoring defenses in the NFL. As we shared, three teams that stand atop the NFL in terms of scoring defense. Points allowed on average per game this season, 17.6 is the number. It's these two teams, the Bolts and the Broncos, and Donnie's Birds. It is why the total is minimal. It also factors in that short week here in week 16.
No, it certainly does. And that's why I went from 42.5 to 41.5. You're taking a look in playoff game atmospheres. We understand that points, yes, you can get a shootout tonight. We've seen it before in professional football. But understand this, with a playoff mentality and Jim Harbaugh, more of an old school type of guy, and you say to yourself, all right, if we are 4th and 1 on our own 46-yard line in the first quarter, are we going for this? Or if this was week number 3 against the Carolina Panthers, do we just say, okay, we got to keep the football here and see what we got? Because when you start to play where if you make a mistake in your coaching decisions, you might be out of the playoffs and your season is done. Sometimes you tense up just a little bit. Are we going to see a double reverse pass here in a spot where you just pick up a first down around midfield, which you might see in a normal regular season game? Maybe you don't see that tonight. Maybe they take the 3-yard handoff up the middle and keep on staying ahead of the sticks. Those are my worries here for why we won't see scoring. But also keep in mind, you look at the time here. It's December 19th. You could be playing this game in Denver in 3 feet of snow and 25-mile-an-hour winds and say, oh, that could really affect it. You're playing at SoFi tonight. It's the perfect track. You're not going to have any issues with weather conditions, and that always helps on things like field goals enough to push you over. And as we started the show, Ben, again, you said we're not dealing with 51.5 points where it's like, okay, hot start, it can slow down. 41.5, which means both of these teams approaching around 20 points, which isn't a lot, will get you in the mark here to try to hit a total in this one. But I just feel short work week, teams that know each other, playoff atmosphere, late in the season Thursday night football game, you might see this played a little bit at a slower tempo than maybe getting after it.
Yeah, absolutely so. And that was the case, DRS, for Los Angeles early on this season. Jim Harbaugh in his first year in L.A., with his old but new offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, told you the exact plan, and they enacted it to a T early on this season. We are going to run the football. Justin Herbert, in his 4 years in the NFL, has been the only good thing for this Chargers team that has been tasked with doing way too much. it's exactly what they did. They went under in 7 of their first 8, now over in 4 of their last 6. And Donnie, the Chargers have now lost 3 of their last 4 as well, and they still are one of the best scoring defenses. But in 3 of the last 5 games, they have allowed at least 27 points. To the Bengals, 27. To the Ravens, 30. And last week, getting blown out by the Buccaneers at home, a 40-piece. Denver has also had some of its own defensive woes the last few weeks as well, but a defense that can also add to the scores. We have seen Nick Bonito score a couple of defensive touchdowns the last few weeks for Denver as well. And based on where they are in a trend perspective, nobody is a better favorite this year than the Broncos. A perfect 7-0 ATS. The team right behind them, though, from a cover percentage standpoint, that would be the Chargers, who are 7-2 against the number. But, Donnie, the only win in cover for the Chargers as a favorite this year against these Denver Broncos way back in week number 6. The Broncos were a dog in their first 4 games of this season. They were 3-1 against the number, 2 outright victories. The Broncos have been booked as a favorite 4 consecutive games, so they are not used to being the underdog anymore. It's part of their season outlook being so much better than we expected for Denver this year. Year number 2 under Sean Payton with a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix.
Yeah, and sometimes we take a look, too, at recency bias, and rightfully so. You can't grade some of these games in mid-September and early October the same way you're going to grade them late. The reason why we pick up here and look at the Denver Broncos' last 4 games, look at the offense. And, yes, there have been some defensive touchdowns, but still, the total point structure, 38 against the Falcons, 29 against the Raiders, 41 against the Browns, 31 against the Colts. That's pretty impressive. And also, when we talk about these 2 teams, top 5 in scoring, did you see last week? You wouldn't have known that from the Chargers' perspective as they took on Tampa Bay and got assaulted out there to 500 plus yards. So if you're looking at recency bias, you might still think there's an opportunity for points, and there is. There's quality play callers on both sides, quarterbacks that have shown their mettle this year that they can put up big statistics when needed to. But Justin Herbert over the past couple weeks, what is he throwing for, Ben? $180, $190, $210, $180 in those ranges here. So I just don't know if we get that high-flying atmosphere that you need. And as I brought up before, we'll get into the props. But there's not a lot of guys. Like, I look at this game and go, Donnie, give me one player from each side. Well, Sutton, you think, is going to have an honest effort, no doubt about it. And then on the other side, it's going to be Ladd McConkey, as long as he's healthy enough to go tonight. But outside of that, it is a true crapshoot across the board. And we will start looking at the touchdown props, Ben, where most games are like, oh, yeah, this guy's going to score minus 150, minus 160, minus 180. Every single player is plus money in this game to score a touchdown, which lets you know there's a lot of guys who you might have to get lucky on tonight. But if you do, are going to pay a pretty good price back.
First game, the Chargers won 23-16. They covered as a short favorite. It did go over a pregame number around 37, would be under tonight's total of 41 and a hook. Again, both of these teams firmly in AFC wildcard spots. The Broncos, the 6th seed right now at 9-5, a game in front of the Bolts. The Chargers still have a 2-game lead over everybody else. Dolphins, Colts, Bengals trying to make a postseason push, and the Chargers have the head-to-head against Cincinnati. The Chargers don't have a playoff price right now, DRS. The Broncos minus 1,200 to see the postseason.
Yeah, and it looks like, hey, at the season end today, they both be in it, but this is why these teams have to play these games, and certainly down the stretch, big things are going to change, and it does start tonight. It might be nice to have the home field advantage on a Thursday. That's a big deal.
Yes, it absolutely is. Now to the props for Thursday Night Football next. Thursday night props for Thursday Night Football to start week number 16 around the National Football League. The Broncos and the Bolts tonight in Los Angeles. It's the Chargers and the Broncos. DRS, let's talk about each quarterback here. Justin Herbert dealing with a litany of injuries the last few weeks. Ankle, knee, hip. He's been a little bit banged up. He did not finish the blowout last week against the Buccaneers. Expected to play tonight. How effective is he going to be? That remains the question. For Bo Nix, last week wasn't great. He did throw 3 interceptions and only 132 yards, but did have 3 touchdown tosses to lead Denver back in a big win over the Indianapolis Colts. Their props are pretty similar. 223 and a hook for Nix. 228.5 right now for Herbert. But, Donnie, as you have said, you look at the prop market, you must look at the total. It's 41.5 on this short week. Would you go over any of those quarterback numbers you see there?
You're getting good price points here. And the reason why I would lean towards the quarterback over the running game, which we'll get to, because I don't think, Ben, we're going to have a sustained running game from either side, to be honest. Like, they're two solid defenses, but it's not as if Saquon Barkley is showing up on one side of the field and, you take a look on the other side, any plethora of great running backs like a Derrick Henry on the other side. You're going to have a mixed match of a couple guys getting in there. So taking those running back props there, which we'll get to, probably not as appetizing. But again, Herbert, 228.5. Sounds decent, but when you look at the past couple games, it's like, that's why it's 228. Any other year, it's like Justin Herbert, 228. They're going to air it out with all the wideouts they have and the play calling there. That's not the case anymore. They're more, you know what? Let's play good defense. Let's make the plays when we need to, and let's not extend ourselves. Same thing with Bo Nix, 223.5. You said it last week, like, hey, look at all the points they put up. The production wasn't really needed from Bo Nix's side. But if I were looking to overs in this game, which a lot of positions I'm not looking forward to that, it's probably the quarterback position. It's not a ton of yards, 225 on either side, basically putting in the ballpark for both of these quarterbacks covering. And as I just told you, I don't think we're going to get running backs 17 carries for $125 stealing the show here. If you're going to move the football tonight, it's probably going to be through the air. So if there were overs to take, you're probably looking at it from the quarterback position.
4 consecutive games under for Herbert, as DRS was referencing. You see the anytime INT prop as well at plus money for Herbert. It makes sense. He did throw a rare pick last week against the Bucs. It was his second total interception of the year. Bo Nix threw multiple interceptions in the first 2 games of his NFL career to start off 2024, then had only thrown 2 interceptions in the next 10 games for Denver. He's got 5 in the last 2. 2 weeks ago, 3 as we shared against Indy a Sunday ago. If I was going to bet one of the quarterbacks to the over, though, it would be Bo Nix of 223.5. Not just because he has comfortably sailed over that number in the last month and a half outside of last week. Donnie, I mentioned it. The Chargers in 3 of their last 5 games have allowed at least 27 points. The Bengals, Joe Burrow threw for 350 plus. And then last week against the Buccaneers, Baker, 288. The only quarterback of a team to put up 30 or 27 plus and not throw for over this number was Lamar Jackson. He didn't have to do a ton. Derrick Henry had a $140 on the ground. The Chargers will give up some yardage, as we saw Bucky Irving do last week on the ground for Tampa. But it's hard to figure out, really, who's that lead back or who you should invest in tonight. Javonte Williams and Audric Estime, 37.5, 26.5. Those are the 2 lead backs for Denver. Other side for LA, DRS, Gus Edwards and the rookie out of Troy, Kamani Vidal. Not big numbers either, 34 to hook, 28 and a hook. If J.K. Dobbins was playing for the Chargers, maybe a different story. The Broncos still one of the better rushing defenses in the NFL as well.
Oh, it should be. And we thought we had a lead dog for the Denver Broncos coming into the season with Williams, but certainly hasn't been the case. And also you say, like, well, forget about the yardage. It's pretty low. How about a touchdown prop to get on the goal line? Good luck figuring out who's actually getting the carry on the goal line at this point, too. So this is why it makes it so much. We should have a competitive game tonight, which is usually rule number 1, where you can watch and have excitement with. But also at the same time, you want the lead dogs all over the place. And as we keep getting to, we'll get to the wideouts. There are some lead dogs there. But outside of it, none of that excites me. But if you can grab, the rabbit by the ears, per se, at this point, you can get some numbers here where, hey, first quarter, the guy's 21 yards on the ground, ride the hot hand. You smash right over a 30-yard prop at this point. But good luck on saying, like, oh, I took this guy to get 30 yards. He's got 1 carry in the first half. Like, that's a tough pill to swallow.
The shortest touchdown number to hit Pater is LA's Ladd McConkey, the rookie out of Georgia, at plus 130. Cortland Sutton has that shortest number for Denver. I think we might be in for a Cortland Sutton game. But very fair. I hope those mics were hot. All right, as we get ready for a new week around the National Football League, here to kick off Week 16 on the early line. Mark Zeno back for a 3rd consecutive
question,
segment.
Ben. You're going to get an answer, okay? That's all I'm going to tell you.
No, I know. Listen, the conversations always continue throughout our commercial breaks. Zeno, you are there in Atlanta, Georgia. We have asked your thoughts about the Falcons' selection of Michael Penix Jr. way back in the spring and in April as the 8th overall pick. Well, now Penix, by the time we enter week number 16, is the starting quarterback, as Kirk Cousins, the $180 million man, will now be on the bench. Zeno, so many different angles to approach this conversation from. Let's start with the football perspective for a Falcons team still very much in the chase for the NFC South divisional crown. Entering week 16, was it the right decision to start Michael Penix Jr. in favor of Kirk Cousins?
I guess we'll know depending on how this game goes, but I think there's a lot of factors that are involved in that. Number one, if the Falcons ended up playing the Commanders on the road this week and the Giants the following week, I believe Kirk Cousins is still starting this week against a better team. The fact that it is the Giants, who are the worst team in the league right now, is a big part of this decision. The fact that they're home makes it a little bit easier for him. That said, the reason this is happening is because the owner is involved. I mean, look, the owner meets with the GM and the head coach after every single game to discuss what's going forward. And this was probably his fingerprints are all over this decision right now because Kirk Cousins isn't playing well. No one's defending Kirk Cousins' play. I'm certainly not going to. But I will add the fact that he's got an offensive coordinator that's likely in over his head and a head coach that doesn't really manage games well on a routine basis as part of the reason why some of his struggles have happened. And I like Raheem Morris. I got a great relationship with him. I talk to him every single week. But he bears some of the blame here as the head coach as to why this team is struggling offensively and the inability to fix those problems. So, look, I am a guy who does not want to reward bad decisions with good results. I'm a process over results guy. You guys know that. I hated the Michael Penix picks when they did it, only because they gave $180 million to Kirk Cousins. If you wanted to draft Michael Penix, fine, then go pay a backup and draft Michael Penix and give him the keys, and let's see where this thing goes. A lot of Falcons fans are elated that Michael Penix is finally starting and that this Kirk Cousins experiment looks to be over. But I keep reminding them, you shouldn't celebrate the fact that your lifeboat works while the Titanic is sinking, right? Like you paid $180 million to a guy as the first move you made this offseason to go get the best quarterback available. And guess what? That ship is sinking. And now you're sitting in a lifeboat going, hey, everything's great. No, it's not. Okay. And somebody's head should roll for the fact that you paid $180 million to this guy and it didn't work out. Because I don't know a world where you can go back to Kirk Cousins right now. Other than Michael Penix getting injured, how do you go back to this guy? Does anybody want this contract? Can you unload him? Are you wasting the rookie contract of Michael Penix because you're spending $40 million of cap money on Kirk Cousins? I mean, these are all things that never really were taken into account other than the fact that you were trying to be like the Green Bay Packers and get your quarterback at the while you have the guy that you have. I mean, again, I think it was a poor decision. I don't wish Michael Penix to do poorly, but I also don't like to see poor decisions rewarded with good results.
Yeah, it's crazy, too, the way it works out, because they could have very easily started Kirk Cousins this week with a layup victory over the Giants, but they made that move to get Penix in the hopes that he plays well, and then he goes up against the Commanders with a game under his belt and will be better off for it. But let's continue to talk football tonight, Mark. Come on, Broncos, Chargers out in L.A. tonight, playoff atmosphere, 2.5-point favorite for the Chargers. How are we feeling about this game?
Chargers closed as a 3-point favorite on the road in the first matchup in Denver and ended up winning it. Now they're just a 2.5-point favorite at home. I don't look. I think the under comes in tonight. I don't trust the Chargers offense without J.K. Dobbins anymore. They don't look like they can score. Denver's offense last week, that was the luckiest 31 points I've ever seen. They had 170 yards in the game and scored 31 in a game they probably shouldn't have covered. Jonathan Taylor, you dope. Beyond that, Can I tell you guys, and I don't care with what Stanford Wong says about how you're supposed to tease, I'm taking Denver up to 8.5 or 9, depending on what the number is, and teasing it with the Ravens on Saturday. 100%.
Wait, who was the person that's giving out bad advice on the teasers? What was that name?
Wong teaser. I think his full name is Stanford Wong, is the guy who developed the teaser, which means you have to take it from, you have to clear the two key numbers of 3 and 7. Yeah. Mr. Stanford Wong, and the professional guys turn around and tell you, oh, you can't do that. You know what? I can do with my money how I want to do with my money. So I'm teasing the Broncos up, teasing the Ravens down to a -0.5. So there's that.
I think it's a great 6-point teaser right there. Basically a pick-em price on the Ravens in a must-win game to hold on to any hope of winning the division. And you take the Broncos over those two key numbers. Stanford Wong, more like Mark Zinno knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
Zin.
sounds like he's Wong.
What a great time today, huh? Hour number 3 up next on the early line. We welcome you to hour number 3, our third and final here on this Thursday, live on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie, I am Ben. There is so much to get into in this third and final hour. We'll talk a little bit of action around the NBA, sure, but we have Thursday night football kicking off Week 16 tonight in Los Angeles, an AFC West divisional duel with no implications on the divisional race. The Chiefs have already won the division for a 9th consecutive year, but huge playoff implications between two AFC wildcard teams, and we try to find you some winning wagers on this short week Thursday night game. DRS, so much still left in store over this final hour.
Absolutely. Bringing the heat here, closing it down in style, because it feels like tomorrow is the official start of the holiday season for us with how much good football we have over the weekend to come up. And then a lot of people taking some days off next week, rightfully so, to recharge. Then the following week, you got New Year. So it's a great time coming up. A lot of bowl games. If you're interested in that, my dream would be in 2 years we never talk bowl games again because we got a 32-team playoff, and hopefully we'll get there at that point. But this is a great time with a good football game tonight, and it's time to get down to business.
Listen, I've made one bowl bet so far this season. I try to read into the tea leaves and those early lines when we had the bowl designations on that selection Sunday when the college football playoff was determined as well. So far, 1 for 1. James Madison laying 6.5. Last night in the Boca Raton Bowl, line closed at 7 and a hook in favor of the Dukes. Bob Chesney and JMU, a football school in thanks in part to Kurt Signetti as well, who will try to lead Indiana to an upset in the first ever 12-team college football playoff game tomorrow night on a Friday. Before we get to any that we have in the college ranks, DRS, let's talk NFL football. The start of Week 16 tonight inside SoFi Stadium in L.A. Huge game for the AFC wildcard chase. Spots and seeds on the line tonight and at stake between the Chargers and the Broncos. So what is the best bet in Los Angeles? We find out with all of you, from all of you, in Fade the Public. Donnie, you had your eyes on this poll almost as it came out immediately. The first 4 votes, where each option got 1 vote. It was a dead heat. It's still pretty tight entering the start of Week 16 tonight. What is the best bet for Thursday Night Football? At SportsGrid on Twitter. The Chargers as a 2.5-point home favorite. The Broncos getting a few points on the road as the dog. Over 41.5 or under that number. The Broncos as the dog, the most selected option. Second most selected, the under. The Chargers as the slight favorite under a field goal, not far behind. I think, Donnie, in terms of fading the public, the one thing we can all agree on, going over 41.5 seems unlikely tonight in L.A.
No, it does, and that's a problem because the public would normally just click on over whatever the price is because typically we're rooting on and most of your bets are trending towards the over. So the fact that only 15.9% of the total bets came in on the over, that's a tough spot here. I do agree with the under, which I voted for as my best bet of the night, 41.5 to the under, which around 29% of the people did. But then you take a look at the game itself, we don't have a large discrepancy. It's under 10% here between the Broncos and the Chargers. I do think it's interesting that a lot of people did take the Chargers at plus 2.5, saying, forget about a Thursday night football game on the road. We'll just take them. They're playing better football theoretically than the Chargers are right now. So pretty even across the board. But I always look at that over-under and say, wow, the people overwhelmingly are choosing the under as opposed to the over, and they could be right tonight.
I think they are right. I think the game script is correct. The flow of how everything will play out this late in a season, in a Week 16 game that will have a playoff atmosphere between 2 of the 3 best scoring defenses in the National Football League, tied at the top in terms of points allowed on average this year alongside Philadelphia. But, Donnie, to see that much of the public on the under, I think we might get 42-plus points tonight. I think I might be becoming – I can already guarantee you what one of your co-hosts on NFL Football In-Game Live Game Day is going to be thinking tonight. Joe Lisi loves the over. He's altered it up to 49.5 already.
All right, let's transport to the set tonight. Joe, what do you think is going to be the key to this game tonight? How do you think it plays out? Josh Palmer, way over his numbers. Joe, do you think he can get 40? I got him at 80. Can he get over 80? Oh, Joe, he just got 80. Can he get over 95.5 now? Josh Palmer. I'm going to hear a lot of that tonight on the set. Yep, absolutely.
You know your friends well, DRS. You know your co-host well, because that is spot on. If I had to pick a Lisi player tonight, it's Josh Palmer. If I had to pick a Lisi bet, it is over 41.5, but not just 42 and being happy with it. In a 6-leg parlay somewhere, it's over 48.5 to cash him out a very big number. DRS, did you vote for the under, by the way, in the Fade the Public poll? Did that get your direction? Yeah.
I did. Under 41.5 was my shot there. So right around being the tops, along with the Broncos getting 2.5, which if I had to pick a side, usually I would lean towards the Chargers, but I do think right now in better form are the Denver Broncos. So it makes it tough. So I'm going to abstain from the side itself. I just feel more confident. Look, can the game go? Of course it can. It's 41.5 points. But as you pointed out, the game script doesn't have me saying to myself, it's going to be up-tempo, no huddle, like somebody on the panel will probably tell me it's going to be like that tonight. We'll find out if it works or not.
Again, DRS, Denver started off this year with not much expectation. Second year for Sean Payton, still in the rebuilding effort at Mile High with a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix. I believe the preseason win total was only 5.5, but I also think I might be thinking of last year. I'm not entirely sure. Regardless, it wasn't overly optimistic for this Denver team to be a playoff team or firmly into that wild card race at this stage of the season. The reason I reference that is because the Broncos were booked as an underdog. It was 5.5. Good job, Ben. Good memory on you. Listen, the Broncos were booked as an underdog in their opening 4 games of this year. They were 3-1 against the spread. They had won outright twice in those opening 4 games. They've only been a dog 3 times since, and they have not been a dog since a road trip to Arrowhead, catching nearly a touchdown against the Chiefs, where somehow they lost that game because of the field goal block from Leo Chanel and that Chiefs special teams unit. But that was actually the one only time they have covered as a dog since their illustrious start to the year as an underdog. Again, we have shared the Broncos have been an elite favorite this season, a perfect 7-0 against the number, covering by an average margin of nearly 13 points per game. The Chargers have also been a good favorite, 7-2 against the spread, but the only cover, DRS, for LA as a favorite against a team currently with a winning record was against these Broncos at Mile High back in week number 6. They were a 2.5-point favorite. They won that game 23-16. Total stayed under. LA to start this year, dead under team. 7 of their first 8 games, over in 4 of their recent 6, where we have seen some scoring and even one of that best scoring defenses in LA start to allow more and more points.
Yeah, Denver's been good the past 4 games here with scoring points, and you take a look at the last game that we just saw for the Chargers, and that game was at home, and Baker Mayfield came in and absolutely tore the building apart. Bucky Irving went over 100 yards. You just don't have that Bucky Irving type of player that you think is going to do damage from either side tonight. So we'll be leaning on the quarterbacks to sort of throw those air yards as opposed to the 7-yard slant that turns into a 27-yard gain. Ladd McConkey, I do think, has a chance to do damage. The same thing that we talk about from Cortland Sutton from a Denver Broncos side of things. Those are the players that you're probably going to want to look forward to and say, you know what, I can probably hang my hat. They're going to get the targets, the yardage, and maybe the scoring. But just the question is, how much scoring are we actually going to get in this game? I don't think enough to get into the mid-40s.